Okay, guys, alternate ending. Take 43.
With so many movies on the net and TV, it's kind of hard being up and film savvy. Do you catch a show while you're on the go? And how do you know what to keep or what to throw? How do you know what to keep or what to throw? Tune in, tune in, tune in to alternate ending. Tune in, tune in, tune in to alternate ending. Now! Please give a warm welcome to the hosts of Alternate Ending.
Welcome to Alternating. We're discovering good movies, one bad movie at a time. I'm film school dropout Robert Jarsinski. Across from me is our casual moviegoer Carrie Jarsinski and our very own critic in residence Tim Brayton. Thanks to our Patreon Travis Neely, we're looking at the exaggerated imitation, as maybe a form of flattery, top 5 parodies. But first, I'm spoiling my dinner with some brownies. Thanks to Tim.
Yes, I just need to say, Rob, thank you. We set the room on fire. We practically murdered each other. It's amazing that an episode even got produced. Don't ever leave us again.
So these are,
and the brownies are my combination. Get better soon, and also thank God that you're here.
A little bribery to keep me yes. in studio, and regardless of I think I have like 5 shiv marks on my torso.
You mean your belly buttons?
They're not. Do they look like belly buttons?
No, remember.
If they look like belly buttons, you need to sue your surgeon.
Our daughter was really creeped out by them, and she was like, finally, she's like, just show me. So Rob kind of lifts up his shirt. She's like, ew, you have 5 belly buttons.
Well, no. So first, she didn't want to see the wounds. I had some kidney surgery for those who haven't been following along. I didn't think it was going to be super complicated, but it ended up being a 7-hour
There is
absolutely
surgery. No such thing as thoracic surgery that isn't complicated. They tell you that it's routine, but they're damn ass liars.
And Abby was very concerned about me having scars, so I came out with five marks, and before even showing her, she said, well, take a picture of it first and then let me see the picture, then I'll decide if I want to see it. Like, somehow that's better. But she was okay with it. She's accepting me back into her life as her father.
How you feeling?
Which I hope. Good. Feeling good. I think I can make it through. I'm sipping on some wine. So
you feeling like you can get to some of that laundry this week?
No, I don't. I did just have surgery, Care.
That's right.
Yeah. I did just have
6 months.
Super invasive surgery.
After my cancer and chemo, I played that off for like a year. So like, I can't buy a box of pencils. I had cancer, and it worked. My mom is a very forgiving woman.
I guess so. You guys, I don't ever use these kinds of tools. I don't ever get any illnesses that I can use for off-putting chores.
You need to be less
stuff.
healthy.
Yeah.
Maybe you should start smoking like 3 packs a day.
I know. We're going to get to that when we start talking.
Then you can get out of things. Yeah, absolutely.
About some of our future movies.
That was one of the perks. At least I thought. Well, the other perk was being able to watch some movies. So I'm excited to finally get back into the flow of things with our Worth Mentioning segment. What is the Worth Mentioning segment? Of the movies we've seen since the last episode, which are the ones we want to talk about most? They could be great movies. They could be terrible. We share them either way. Care, with my illness, and I guess not illness, but with my surgery, how many movies were you able to squeeze in?
I saw 5.
Nice. Me too.
5 movies.
I'm sure we saw the same 5 then.
You think?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Tim, how about you?
Looks like I saw 6 this week. It's been a busy week at grad school, but trying to stay on top of what's coming out for review purposes.
Plus, you've been busy at church praying for my recovery. So in between that and school and movie watching, that took a hit.
Yes,
I appreciate that. Care, what are you bringing to the table this week?
What am I bringing to the table? So I was going to talk about how you and I went to go see the Florida Project. Were you going to talk about that too?
I could talk about that too.
All right, let's talk about that. So Tim talked about this. Was this 2 episodes ago?
It was a bit ago.
It was a bit ago.
3.
So this is Rob and I's on our list for most anticipated for the fall and winter. And yeah, it was a movie. I know you had told me in advance that I
think I indicated that it was different than you expected. Not that I thought you would dislike it, just that it was different than you would expect it to be.
So you were like 50% on point, I would say. It was different than I expected.
So that's 100% on point.
And also...
No, but I didn't like it.
Okay.
Okay. There
you go. So 50%. No, it was fine. We literally just saw it last night, and I'm still riding the stress of that movie.
It's a pretty stressful movie.
It was really stressful. So Tim talked about it, but in case you missed it, it's in theater still. It's directed by my favorite person ever, apparently, Taika Waititi.
It's directed by Sean Baker.
No, that's Sean Baker. You still have your notes from last week.
This is what happened. This was the entirety of last week's
Oh,
episode.
so
what I missed.
this is wow.
Are you
know,
thinking What We Do in Shadows? Were you going to do that?
No.
'Cause we did see
It's
that.
definitely Thor Ragnarok. Because I'm also I think in the Florida Project they went to Asgard.
Probably was not
Yep,
Chris Hemsworth.
and Kate Blanchett was amazing.
She was
in
so
the
good.
Project.
Actually, I liked this movie then. If I think about it. So actually, Rob, because I really just wanted, since you're back and you're in the game,
Just
why
gonna
don't you
hand
just
it
tell
over to
me
me?
a little bit about
Sure.
this movie?
Hour 51 minutes. IMDb gives it 8.1. Rotten Tomatoes, it's crushing it, 95%. So I think you were in the favorable side of that 95% as
I
well.
gave it a fresh. I mean, it's hard for me to say there's anything that's bad about it, even though I slightly hated it a little.
Yeah.
But I slightly hated it because I slightly hate children. so that's that.
See, we hated it for different reasons. I slightly hated it because
Well,
I hate adults.
I assumed you wouldn't hate it because you hate children, because that would be bad.
Yeah, I suppose. These ones were kind of rotten too. Everybody in this
They're very
movie
loud.
was kind of
They're very
rotten.
loud.
Written
Yeah,
in-
I like your children because they're quiet.
they're more muted for
They're more
sure.
muted.
Yeah. So tell us about
I
it.
know
Rob.
some kids like this, though. I do know some
Yeah.
kids. Written and directed by Sean Baker, I believe was the name you were going for. Director of Tangerine. Tangerine known for its iPhone, everything shot on iPhone,
Right.
of the transgendered individuals. Maybe from Florida. Maybe, I don't know
I think from Los Angeles.
Los Angeles.
I haven't seen
Okay,
Tangerine.
so it's not like he has
Tangerines, plural, I
Tangerines.
think.
Okay.
Maybe it's, I don't know.
This one stars as the well. It's set over the summer. It's basically a slice of life movie with I don't know if it's hyper real. It's just realism. Like, I felt like I was watching a documentary for a good chunk of the movie, where the camera was just present in this every day. Not a whole lot of maybe it's planned dialogue, but kids being kids at this motel. Somewhere near you get a sense that it's near Disney
It's
World.
very clearly in Kissimmee.
In Kissimmee?
Kissimmee.
Kissimmee?
Kissimmee. I don't know.
And is that
one
right on the outskirts of Orlando?
It's like the trashy tourist trap part. of
I'm
Orlando.
sorry if there's any listeners currently.
I'm real sorry if we have any listeners in Kissimmee. Get the hell out, man.
You can stay with us. Just
You
come
can
here.
totally crash on my couch.
I felt bad for myself because it just made me feel bad. Like, the movie made me feel guilty.
About everything.
It wants to.
About everything.
It's trying to.
Yeah. It's in, like a documentary, it's trying to show you a piece of something to hope you maybe influence you. Yeah, I certainly have a greater appreciation of maybe what people who I didn't realize people were going through these types of struggles. And I think that's my understanding is from Sean Baker. That's what he was trying to expose, was this slice of life of individuals who are living right on the outskirts of the most wonderful place on earth and are barely surviving to get by. And it just follows one child, Mooney in particular, played by Brooklyn Prince, and a couple of her friends over the course of her summer, dealing with a mom who has
Some issues.
yeah, she has some issues. Lost employment, trying to figure out what to do for a job. I really liked it. I gave it. I'm giving it 3.5.
So Willem Dafoe's in this too.
Yeah.
His performance is wonderful, and
His
that's the only
performance
thing that
is
stands
so
out for me.
goddamn good.
This movie was, if you're a parent, and maybe if you're not too, but this one hits particularly because it's showing what I liked about the movie was, while it was dark in a lot of ways, and the ways it was representing this place, it didn't go super dark. Like, it had tastes of it. Like, It starts to talk about like the risks of, child abuse and the things that could happen, but it never goes super, super dark and graphic, which I appreciated.
Well, because it's trying to stay very clearly tied to the children's perspective. So for them, they don't understand why Willem Dafoe is escorting this creepy old beggar Santa
Creeper,
Claus sort of figure away.
punch him in the face, dude.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like, they don't get it. So we get it, and I think that's maybe the best scene in the film because of Dafoe in large part. So that's a tense, scary ass scene, but the kids don't perceive it that way.
Yes.
But the
Doesn't
constant
read that way.
juxtaposition of those types of things, again, being right on the outskirts of Disney World. Also, the beautiful, I found the visuals to be stunning of setting up these otherwise very ugly structures, and he framed them beautifully.
The cinematography, that's part of the reason I ended up giving it fresh, even though I have very little use for the script. The cinematography in this film is fucking good.
Yeah. No, it's
Just so
they're
fucking
ugly
good.
things, but they're presented to you in this beautiful setup, and it's like, it's beautiful, but it's also tragic. And I can't, but yeah, I'm enjoying looking at this.
So you actually liked it?
I liked it. Yeah, I liked it. Where were you rating it? Or
I
you
don't
still
even
thinking
know.
about it?
I'm still feeling it out, but I was upset after leaving it midway through. I started questioning my own parenting. I'm like, have I ever done something like that? Like the mom in this is just rotten. And you said something in the one episode about how she becomes redeeming in the end, and I never got there with her. I was like, you're the worst.
I don't believe I said that.
I thought you said, I think you were like, she pulls it back together. You really despise her in the beginning, and then she starts to do some redeeming things. I thought you said.
That doesn't sound like me in this movie.
Well,
this is our other.
There are things that we probably
critic.
would like to spoil, and I've been thinking about this. I feel like I need to talk more about this movie, in particular the ending. And if you guys feel like sticking around for a few minutes after, maybe we can do like a post-it, like a Patreon goodie after this, and talk a little bit about the ending of this one. All right,
that works.
Well, Tim, what did you end up seeing?
Well, I saw, as I said, 6 movies, most of which I saw for the pretty specific purpose of like doing reviews. So you can see reviews of a lot of these things online. But the one I want to talk about is a movie called The Breadwinner, directed by Nora Toomey. It's an animated film made by Cartoon Saloon, the studio responsible for Song of the Sea and The Secret of Kells.
Men.
And I have the good fortune to have received a screener of this movie. So if you live in most of the world, you don't have a chance to see it yet, but you should keep your eyes open for it. It's great. It's a movie set in the late 90s, early 2000s. It's not really specified. Sometime shortly before the U.S. war in Afghanistan. It's set in Kabul, Afghanistan, where the Taliban has instituted a fairly strict regime of religious rules, primarily around the behavior of women. And so the film is about this family where there is a husband who's lost his leg in the war with Russia in the 80s. His wife is sick. They have a teenage daughter, a daughter who's like around 11 or so, and then a toddler son. And so only one of these people can leave the house to do work, and it's the father. So he, goes out, he makes money, he ekes out a very meager living given his lost limb, so he can't do much. And at a certain point, he gets arrested for breaking Taliban law by letting his 11-year-old daughter, Parvana, come out with him. So what happens is the family is now without money, without any resources. So she, the little 11-year-old, dresses up as a boy to go out and acquire food and basic needs of life, because otherwise the family will simply starve quietly of attrition. So a really, really wonderful, humane children's story. It's like, I think kind of the weird thing about this, it's a kid's story about like how the religious authoritarianism of the Taliban like constrains female lives, or constrain.
What makes it a kid's story? Everything
just
you're saying
tone.
doesn't. Oh, okay.
Like the tone. It's a cartoon.
It is a cartoon.
It's a cartoon. It's by an animation studio. Just like everything about it is very gentle, very storytelling oriented. Like there's a large B plot where Parvana tells adventure stories to her little brother, and those are animated in this really beautiful, almost like paper doll cutout style. Oh. The film itself is in a fairly standard looking, honestly, even a little bit too smooth and too glossy computer animation. It was done on a program called TV Paint, which is basically like Flash. But it's just this really lovely depiction of a very serious topic in a way that I think is honest and like interested in grappling with this issue, but also doing it from a way that like you could show your children. I mean, I wouldn't say, Rob and Carrie, you should show your children, because it's like for a 10-year-old. Like I'd say like 9 or 10 is the age for this movie. And also it shows some serious things. It's an upsetting movie in a lot of ways, but really, I mean, just for me, seeing a kid's movie that's this serious and thoughtful and invested in the world is such a rich, wonderful surprise, especially when that looks this good. Like it's just such a beautifully animated film.
Although sometimes are the things that are upsetting going to be less upsetting if you're the younger you are seeing it?
There is a scene where the mother gets knocked to the ground and beaten.
Oh,
so like that, if nothing else, that is clearly a scene that I think and like it's not shown graphically.
Yeah,
but we know
get
what's
it,
going
and
on.
you get it even as like.
Well,
a
I like that the
6-year-old.
studio is, and I correct me if I'm wrong. I know Song of the Sea took place. Focused on folklore. Was it Gaelic?
They were both very Irish.
Irish, yeah.
And I will say, I think the house style at Cartoon Saloon is very well suited for a Gaelic setting, less so for Islam, honestly. Like, I think that is one of the issues with the film is they haven't changed their style enough to address how different the setting is.
Interesting. Yeah, I was going to give them props for branching out a little bit beyond kind of
totally.
their own folklore and into more relevant recent topics.
And yeah, I mean, I know you guys weren't as hot on Song of the Sea.
No,
as
we.
I am.
I like that.
were.
That was good.
No, I think we both
But
were.
yeah, no, it's definitely like if you've liked either of their earlier movies, like this is a no-brainer. Like
Okay.
this so clearly needs to
That
be
sounds good. So we'll look out for it when it gets a wider release then.
For, my one is actually a Patreon subscriber had us review Some Like It Hot, 1959's classic, which Carrie and I have not seen. Thanks to Not Fenimore, aka James Cooper, for passing that along to us. 2 hours and 1 minute. IMDb gives it 8.3. Rotten Tomatoes 96%. It is number 118 on IMDb's.
That is far too low.
Far too well, yeah. But the fact that it's even on an IMDb list is saying a lot for being as.
I'm just saying the
classic.
best comedy ever made needs to be higher on that list.
Oh, is that where you have this?
That is where I have this.
Billy Wilder, written and directed. Well, I was going to ask what your favorite Billy Wilder movie is, but this would be the one.
Sabrina.
Sabrina's another one that is 7-Year Itch.
Sunset Boulevard, Double
Sunset
Indemnity.
Over Sunset. I
The
haven't seen Sunset
original
Boulevard.
Ocean's 11.
I did not know
Nope.
that. No, I don't
Yeah.
know. No.
Nope.
It's for sure.
Maybe
I
produced.
So he did a movie called Ocean's 11.
Nope.
For sure.
Billy Wilder.
Yeah. With a W.
All right. Well, Carrie gets proven wrong, and Tim will be looking into this. I'll go into more of the movie. It stars Tony Curtis, Jack Lemmon, and Marilyn Monroe. It's two male musicians who see something they're not supposed to, a mob hit, and they flee. So their only chance to really make it out of Chicago, which is where the kind of the first third of the movie takes place, is they have to pose and drag as females. They're musicians, and they were just by chance there was a bass player and saxophonist needed in an all-female band. So they board the train, they get in there, and they make some acquaintances with
Make some friends.
with Marilyn Monroe. And,
I mean, that's
comedy
as
ensues.
it were. I mean,
Comedy
why
of
wouldn't she
all
just be
kinds
passing
ensued.
by Marilyn Monroe?
Incidentally, IMDb says that this had an uncredited script, or that Ocean's 11 had an uncredited script redressed by Billy Wilder. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's where you got
But
it.
that's not
I guess
directed.
I'm right, right?
I guess that you're right if we can trust uncredited on the IMDb.
I think we can.
Okay.
Nonetheless, I enjoyed this movie. It was fun to watch. I'll say the thing that I liked about it most was Jack Lemmon.
Yes.
my favorite part
I don't
of
know.
that.
Well, yeah, maybe.
Man, is it okay to say that I particularly didn't like Tony Curtis in this movie? Is that
Oh,
okay?
I totally like
really?
Tony.
It is not okay to have disliked any aspect of this film.
Okay, Tony Curtis didn't do it for me. I did not quite see
So
the
a little bit
Not
more.
even the Cary Grant impression?
What?
See, the Cary Grant version is kind of
Ow.
what is that? When he was the ship captain
when he's-
or,
yeah.
or the yacht, the shell oil man.
Yep, Shell Oil
So maybe
Jr.
if I knew more about Cary Grant, that would have hit. But I was like, what accent is he trying
He's
to
doing
do?
Cary Grant. He's doing a
Cary
really
Grant,
crappy
Rob.
mid-Atlantic Cary Grant accent. It's
Oh,
great.
it was perfect.
What'd you think, Carrie?
I think that if I was like in my 70s or 80s, like he would have been my go-to babe. Tony Curtis was a monster babe.
You don't like the dark-haired look.
I mean, he was black and white, so it was like it could be like a light brown. You don't really know what it's picking up with the color.
No, I believe he's
But like, oh, he was such like a heartthrobby guy. On a side note, is that Jamie Lee Curtis's dad?
Yep.
Did you know that, Rob?
I forgot until right this moment.
Until this moment, can you believe that? I don't even see the resemblance there. It's a little weird. But yeah, he was smoking. And
That's
so
what Jamie gets her looks, I guess my dad would say.
yeah, I know. So I thought this movie was perfect.
This movie is perfect. Thank you.
It was so good.
It
And
is
I
a
was
perfect
worried when it
film.
started off. I was kind of like, meh. But
Would
like,
you go as far as saying best comedy of all time?
oh,
on the record?
gosh, I know. I mean, well, I don't know. I can't know.
It's hard. Is it hard?
You can just say
so
yes. It'll be all right.
I'll
But
just-
I can't actually
I'll
think
back you
of.
up.
I can't think of another one right now to back it up.
No, I'm not asking you to pick your favorite comedy of all time, but it's for me. It's the fact that I wish I would have seen this sooner. It's hard for me to appreciate older movies, which is why I continue to appreciate when individuals expose me to older movies that I would
Totally.
have not just kind of. I
And
would
this
have
one
just tossed
stands up with
aside.
the test of time, though. The
Yeah, it's-
humor in this, like sometimes we watch some of these older ones and I think, the humor's a bit of a miss. Like the types of humor and the exchanges that happen in
It's-
this are perfect.
It's a film from 1959 where a substantial part of the narrative and a substantial amount of the comedy comes from like questioning gender, like binary gender roles.
You
like,
led me in-
That's psychotically forward thinking.
Here's a question for you too. Is this movie meant to be? Was this a social commentary at the time on? I don't want to say like. what's the word I'm looking for? Like women's
Empowerment? Movement?
No, like not. I don't want to say assault's not the word. Like so.
I mean, it's hard for me to imagine Billy Wilder making a knowingly feminist film.
Okay, that's what I was actually going to get at, because it's like there's all these scenes where it's like, their butts are getting pinched and like they're getting all these really crude things said to them by all the men.
Imagine if it happened to you, like
yes.
yeah, kind of a thing.
And I was wondering if that was any part of it.
I mean, clearly it's aware of that, and it's aware there's a double standard.
Yeah.
I mean, Billy Wilder is not a man averse to sexism.
Yeah.
I think that's a fair way to describe a lot of his films. So it's hard for me to imagine him making like a feminist message
wasn't like
movie.
a commentary. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think it happens because like if anyone's going to be honest about, well, what would it be like for a man to be a woman? All of a sudden that man has to confront his butt being pinched.
So he's playing it for laughs, not for like, this is wrong.
I see.
Kind of a thing.
It makes me like it slightly less knowing that, but still hilarious and wonderful and good. And their relationship between Joe and he plays what, Daphne? Jack Lemmon plays Daphne.
He plays
is that
Daphne,
right?
yeah.
Is just awesome. And his facial expression, like all of their expressions and their commentary back and forth.
A lot of controversy
is so
surrounding
good.
this around Marilyn Monroe as far as her abilities, particularly on this movie and showing up and being a little bit of a prima donna.
She was a difficult actress to work with apparently 100% of the time. And in this movie, Billy Wilder was a short-tempered man who probably didn't want to necessarily work with an actress under those circumstances.
I thought she did well, though.
She got the job done.
She got the job done.
She's a
So
beauty.
50
Yeah.
takes or whatever it was for per scene, whatever it was,
I've never
she delivered.
seen her in another movie before,
This
and
is a
so
good
She's
first
striking.
one.
She's striking.
It's a good
she's
first Monroe
striking,
film.
but it's not the when you see somebody and then you don't pair their voice with them. That is not the voice I expected to come out of her.
Oh, sure.
It was a little bit more like ditzy.
Yeah.
New York. I was expecting this very smoky voice.
I expected Smokey.
She has a pretty smoky voice, y'all.
You think?
I think she has a pretty
I
smoky
think
voice.
it sounded a little ditzy and squeaky.
I think she's noted for her very breathy voice, in fact.
Maybe she sings the president song.
That does happen.
Either
She
way,
sings the president's song.
this was a fabulous movie, and I'm very,
thanks a
very
lot,
glad that we saw it.
James Cooper, appreciate it. Keep sending good movies our way. Remember, you can find more details about all the movies we've watched at our website, alternateending.com. That's alternateending.com. Before we head to our break, you might be wondering about ways to support the show. Some of you may know last week we shared our first behind-the-scenes bonus content for our Patreon subscribers, where Tim outlined some hygiene tips, and Carrie shared a little too much about my surgery.
Oh, you did listen to the episode.
I listened to that part. Yeah, well, someone needed to edit it.
Oh, that's right.
So now if you pledge $3 a month or more, you get access to all of our bonus content, like our spoiler discussions that we'll be having after this episode. What are some other things that you guys interested in sharing going forward?
Me making very vulgar, very racially insensitive jokes.
Yeah, you are kind of vulgar and racially insensitive.
try
I can
to
see
be.
that, yeah.
But I try to only do it when I'm not being recorded, so this will be an exciting...
And the perk, too, is if you're a patron, you're going to know none of your teacher or none of your bosses at work and stuff. We're going to know if they sign up.
Well,
so until they sign up,
that
so we can
incents
kind
them.
of monitor who's listening to your insensitivity.
Yep.
Insensitivity.
Well, if you're looking for more perks like making us watch a movie, having Tim write a review, picking your own episode topic like Travis Neely did this week, you can do it all from our Patreon page, much like our newest patrons. We had two folks pick up our Critics' Choice Award, entitling them to have Tim write a movie review for the flick of their choosing. This time it was Brendan Klein, who went with Pedro Almodovar's. Did I say that fast enough?
You said that pretty close.
Okay. Women's on the verge of a nerve.
You did, however, mispronounce the word women, which I can
What did I
imagine.
say?
You said women's.
Women on the verge of a nervous breakdown. Also, we had Gregory Gentry, who selected the 1964 Quaidon. He emphatically stated that no review site is complete
Spell it. I don't
without
think
a
Rob knows.
Masaki Kobayashi review.
Well, we do not have a Kobayashi.
Do you know what movie this is?
For shame, Tim.
I own this movie on Blu-ray and I've never watched it.
For
so
shame.
I'm glad to finally have the
Ooh.
excuse. It's long. It's a 3-hour movie.
Only 4 Tim reviews left, so be sure to get on that if you're interested in having
Wait.
Tim write a review on your behalf. We also had a Sundance Grand Jury Prize elected, entitling someone to a movie for Carrie and I to watch as part of Worth
Which
Mentioning.
one is that?
Jack Rosen picked that up. He's still debating whether to punish or reward us with his selection.
Ooh.
So
You know, what's interesting about Rob and Carrie's choice is you might think you're rewarding them by giving them a great classic of world cinema, and it will turn out to be punishment.
That does happen.
Give them a great anime film, and it will be both a reward and a punishment.
And last, we also had a Razzie Award picked up, which gets you a shout out and access to all that bonus content that we talked about. Thank you, CRD, listener CRD.
Thank you very much. A loyal Twitter follower, I might add.
Absolutely. Perfect timing as well to sign up, as we were just putting out that bonus content on Patreon. Also wanted to give a quick shout out to Jason and Becca Stewart, who sent us a gift card in the mail. They turned out to be our pen pals that were sending us nipple tassels. So they wanted to apologize to you, Tim, for making you
freaking you
uncomfortable.
out.
Well, it's not that I was uncomfortable. I don't like the thought of my co-host.
You
being
can
stalked
you can
and
now
murdered.
roll up your sleeping bag, and that's outside our door.
Okay.
And
So
take
in
your
a-
stuff.
I can go back to my own house.
You
In
can go
apologies,
back, yeah.
they did send us a $25 gift card, which we used to go see the Florida Project, and we didn't cut you
But
in.
I appear to have been the one who was psychologically distressed, so I'm not entirely sure why I didn't get part of this $25.
We'll send you Tim's address so that you can also send him a gift card.
And remember, Tim's motto is, sending money, gift cards, absolutely fine. Nipple tassels, prefer not. So send him pics.
I've been using them as bookmarks, and they've been very useful.
The bookmarks, very nice. Also, I want to thank all of our listeners who support the show and make their Amazon purchases through our site. Doing is easy. Just go to our website, alternateending.com, click on our Amazon banner, and seamlessly go about your purchases. All proceeds go to making our show better. Since our last episode, here were the things that were purchased. A lot of Thanksgiving-related items,
Okay.
obviously, with Thanksgiving coming up
Turkeys.
this week. Had 3 books purchased. Pete the Cat, The First Thanksgiving.
I love Pete the Cat.
Why don't we have any Pete the Cat in the house?
I don't know. I usually get them from the library. But do you know Pete the Cat? Do you know how it goes?
No, I don't
Apparently,
know.
Pete the Cat was at the first Thanksgiving, which implies he's been dead for many hundreds of
It
years.
rhymes a lot. It's really good. The kids love it. It's like
That's very-
Pete the
yeah.
What
Cat.
rhymes with Thanksgiving?
Spanksgiving.
It does.
See,
Also had Little Turkey Finger Puppet book. That could go wrong.
I haven't read that one.
Also, Happy Thanksgiving activity book for kids of all ages. Games, mazes, coloring, crosswords, matching, etc.
Did you buy this for yourself, Rob?
No, I didn't. I welcome some Thanksgiving themed things so that I can get drunk and watch football while my kids entertain themselves. Also, a book, Thanksgiving is for Giving Thanks, Reading Railroad. Very nice.
Nice.
Computers, we had a Razer Kraken USB black noise isolating over-ear gaming headset with mic. Again, for your PlayStation 4, if you don't want your kids to annoy you, you get the noise canceling. So you can't hear what's going on. You're just playing whatever current game is on PlayStation 4. Call of Duty. Some sort of Call of Duty, I'm sure.
I think there's a Call of Duty out recently.
There you go. There always is.
That's the point.
Pet supplies. We had a Durascoop Jumbo Cat Litter Scoop. All metal. You want to go all metal.
Okay.
You don't want it to bend.
Yeah, well, and BPA. You don't want all that leaking in.
No, not for your kitty.
cat. Yeah.
Also, a 12-pack of Inaba Cat Churu Puree Tuna Treats, 2 ounces each. Appreciate that. 6-pack of Chow Churu Cat Treat Creamy Puree. Chicken flavor. Surprised it's not turkey for Thanksgiving.
It's funny as you're reading all of these because since I had to read them last week, I'm like, this is the worst. They're like worded so you're actually not that bad.
I'm not
at
that
this.
bad, all things
No.
considered.
You are a shockingly competent, talented person.
Yeah,
It
we
doesn't
never
seem that
knew.
way, dear listeners. We know. But actually, Rob is the glue that holds the show.
It's really weird. We
I
didn't know it
appreciate that,
until
guys.
now. Yeah.
We also had a pure a faucet replacement water filter. Gotta have we had some nitrates in our water. We ended up kind of doing like a whole house kind of thing.
Rob's
but
a paranoid person, so we had to get the whole house
yeah,
system.
nitrates not so good.
Just a little cow poo.
Also, some Amazon Instant Videos and DVDs. We had The Lives of Others on Amazon Instant Video.
Nice choice.
That's a good pick.
It's a good movie.
Amazon Instant Video, The Battle of Algiers.
Excellent motion picture.
Nice. And then on
I would
DVD,
guess that you would like that.
Les Samurai. The
Man,
Criterion.
someone has good taste in movies this week. A+.
Is this you?
I own all these things.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Well, thanks, guys, for all your purchases. When we get back, our top 5 parodies. And welcome back to Alternating. We're talking about our top 5 parodies. Care, a very divisive discussion based on, not really discussion, but just based on the picks that the audience members had. So I'm curious now, what makes a parody for you?
What makes a parody? So it's a film with lots of tropical birds that occasionally talk. Makes a parody movie. Are we all on the
really
same
good.
page,
Good-
right?
good pun.
Really good.
Yeah.
Nicely done.
Thanks.
Besides Rio and Rio 2, how many films?
I actually only had 2 that I
right.
brought today.
All right.
Actually, there's got to be something in one of those pirate movies, right?
Well, there's definitely 3 Caballeros and
Yeah.
Cinco Amigos, so that's 4.
Yeah. So there we are.
Great.
right, good episode, everybody.
What made so here? No, I think so. I did research because I wasn't 100% sure. But what I do think it is, a parody film is a subgenre film of comedy. Okay?
Yes.
And it has to sort of like pick fun or resemble that movie, but in like a funny spin way where they're sort of like making fun of that genre a little bit.
You went with genre and making fun of genre.
Of the comedy genre specifically.
So it is a comedy that makes fun of other comedies?
Makes fun of the comedy genre.
Oh, it makes fun of a comedy genre?
Yeah. So like if I'm a movie and then I'm like teasing on another movie, then I'm a parody. You know?
So, but is the parody making fun of the
original movie?
Of the original movie,
yes.
Not a genre.
Yes.
So it's a movie that makes fun of another.
But it might make fun of just a genre because it might not point at like a specific movie. It might just parody. It may either parody a specific movie or it may parody the genre as a whole.
All right.
Of the type of thing. So like let's say it's a Western parody, but it's a comedy. I might be like joking about Westerns in the form of a comedy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or I could be joking about...
How would you joke in the form of not a comedy?
Exactly.
You've just confused me because you just said Western parody, and then that already throws my stuff out of whack. So now I'm curious, Tim, for you.
So
what is a parody?
The way I understand it, and I am not a literary theorist, the way I understand it is that parody is a very specific type of comedy that uses it basically replicates or mimics a specific text, and it does so to mock the shortcomings of that text. A spoof is that, but applied to a style or a genre or a cycle. So if a film is making fun of the shortcomings of the Western, it is a spoof. If a film is making fun of the shortcomings of Tombstone or Dances with Wolves, it's a parody.
Oh.
Now, that being said, I am not electing to draw a distinction between the word parody and spoof on my list.
Oh, interesting.
Because I think that's needlessly pedantic even for me.
Damn it. Well, I am Mr. Pedantic
Apparently.
then.
Well, are we ever going to have a top 5 spoofs?
I thought we might.
Well, we're not now.
I left out a lot of movies that I really enjoy because I like you, must have went back and you might have already know what the definition of parody versus spoof versus satire is. But I went and really tried to apply that.
Satire exists in sort of a different continuum.
It's a different because it's not meant to be. It's meant to be a commentary.
Satire is commentary.
Commentary on
satire has like at least some sociological bent.
But I was really trying to break out what's the difference between a spoof and a parody, and I applied the same logic in film is where it needs to be based on an exaggeration of some sort of original work, specific work.
And it also needs to have mockery as its intention, because you can exaggerate out of love, or I mean, even you can parody and spoof out of love, but you can also make a work that exaggerates the original but does not do so with the intent to joke about it.
So I may need an episode to talk about my top 5 spoofs because spoofs are not in this.
All right.
So I focused specifically on movies that made fun of original kind of works, not genres. Genres are too broad.
Sure.
That was what I did.
Well, I did not make that distinction. I did make a couple other distinctions, though. One, and this is something I saw a lot of choices on the website that to me did not fall as either parody or spoof. Being a funny thing in a genre framework does not inherently mean it is a
Thank
spoof.
you. Yeah, I was curious on your thoughts on that.
So the specific one, and I don't want to say this in case it shows up on Carrie list.
It's going to be on my list.
All right, so we'll talk about it when it's on your list.
I just said genres were fine.
Just because.
Well, no, genre is fine. Like you can have a parody of a genre.
Which one? Just which one? I won't look. Don't look at my face.
If you have an action movie that's funny,
tell me what it is.
That's different than being an action.
Which is the one that you guys aren't counting?
So the specific one that a lot of people mention on the site is The Princess Bride, which to me is a very funny fairy tale based on a book that's a spoof of fairy tales, but I don't think the movie itself is a spoof of fairy tales. It doesn't do anything to mock the conventions. It just sort of applies them in a comedic vein.
I'd agree there. What about mockumentaries?
To me, that doesn't even come close because it's parodying a form. It's parodying documentary, so it's spoofing documentary, but the jokes are not at the expense of documentary form.
Okay.
What about mockbusters?
What is it? Blockbusters?
Mockbusters. It's another genre where they combine
I mean,
elements
to me,
of
that,
sci-fi,
that,
horror,
one could,
war.
that one could conceivably count, but
Okay.
it doesn't inherently count.
Well, I'm excited. I don't think we're going to have, we may have like one overlap.
I'm just going to start with Rio. With Rio 1.
You're gonna
No.
go
Now I have Rio 2 in my number 5
Oh,
spot.
see, I thought so. So I thought we were going to have a lot of overlap. I
I'm
think
not
our
sure that we're
overlap
gonna
is
have any
0.
overlap.
Because I always say we're going to have overlap and we don't. So today I'm going to go with 0 overlap and see if I have better
And then
chances.
with each pick, if you don't mind, let me know what it's parodying.
No, I can't do that. You're rude.
That's the point
You're
of-
super rude.
That's the point of the
Because you
episode.
definitely know I don't have that answer. So we're not going to do that.
I can tell you what
Jerk.
your picks are parodying.
I know. Okay, thank you. Thanks, Tim. Write it down on a little slip of paper and then slide it my way each time. Get some paper.
So just so we're clear before we start, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade is clearly a parody of Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Of course.
But here's a question: Would that thing where they like redid it be anything?
No, that's shot for shot recreation.
Okay,
That's
different.
That's different. Unless they were
Obviously,
doing it
yeah.
to make
Fan
fun.
film?
That's a fan film.
Okay, obviously, yeah. All right, so here we go. My first film
Yep.
is a classic,
Yep.
and it's from 2004, and it is the movie Anchorman, which is a parody on all those broadcasting type ones.
I feel like of all the Will Ferrell does a job movies, this is actually the one you could defend as a spoof because it is a spoof
Spoofy,
of network
yeah.
news.
Yeah, that broadcast news.
All right,
the news, yeah.
I'm
And just
on
broadcast
board.
news, yeah.
I buy it.
Okay.
It's
I buy
a spoof. It wouldn't fit my criteria as a parody because it doesn't focus on any specific original work.
Sure, but it's like a spoofy parody on like news anchoring.
Yep.
So it's
Yeah.
directed by Adam McKay. It's actually written by Will Ferrell, who I don't usually love, but whatever. He's also in it. So it's set in the 70s, and Ron Burgundy is the top-rated newsman for San Diego's Channel 4. And then Veronica Corningstone, who's played by Christina Applegate, comes into the mix. They think she's like this. And it's like the parody or whatever. I'm going to misuse the word parody a bunch during this episode, just so you know. But the parody on like the women in the 70s, like, oh, women don't know how to do anything. They're not going to work. They're not like the working woman age or era hadn't, I don't think, started yet. And so she comes into the mix and she's like this determined woman. And she's like, oh, I'm going to take over as news anchor. And he thinks it's a joke. He's like, oh, like, yeah, sure, women, give me some coffee, you know. But really, she actually ends up being amazing and wonderful. And so her ratings start to rise, and he becomes increasingly enraged by her success.
To me, this is satire. That part of
It's
it
like
is satire.
that part is satire, but the other part is a parody.
I'm on board. Like when you
Okay.
said it, I was like, but then I worked it through, and I think
This movie makes me laugh for so many things.
I don't know why. It's so funny.
It's a funny.
It's so funny.
And then I go into thinking about Tim watching a movie like Tim. Do you laugh out loud in these?
not an Anchorman.
You do not laugh out loud.
I
at
saw
Anchorman?
it like 10 years after it came out. Everyone had hyped the shit out of it.
face.
It's not a movie for me.
When he kicks
It's not a movie for
kicks
me
the dog
either.
with the ensemble scene with the fight.
They like fall into the gorillas.
I heard conversations like these for 10 years and was finally like, well, I guess I better fucking see Anchorman. And then I did, and it was like, well, that sucked.
You had
It's
high
exactly the response
expectations.
I had to Zoolander.
I hated Zoolander.
That's
Zoolander was
a
the
rough
worst.
comparison.
But
To me, they feel like two peas in a pod.
Will Ferrell to me is just silly and goofy in this one, and I managed through him in this one and enjoyed it. And that's why I made number 5.
Nice. Tim, to you?
So my number 5 sort of feels like it's coming from the same kind of cultural quadrant actually as Anchorman. This is, I think, possibly the youngest film I've ever put on one of our top 5 lists.
Wow.
This is the 2007 Jake Kasdan film, co-written by Jake Kasdan and Judd Apatow, Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox story, which is a parody of the biopic genre writ large, specifically a pretty focused in parody of Walk the Line, the Johnny Cash biopic from 2005, with some dollops of Ray and the Kevin Spacey film about Bobby Darin Beyond the Sea. And it stars John C. Reilly as Dewey Cox, who comes from a very enervated childhood to become an all-time great legend of 20th century music. So it's structurally, it just mocks the shit out of biopics, which I love because I hate biopics a lot. And the other thing it does that's really great is it's just this really amazing compendium of jokes at the not expense of 20th century musical forms, but over his storied career, Dewey Cox gets involved in just about every genre of music active between the 50s and the 80s. And there's these somewhat loving, often kind of not loving at all, like jabs at those specific musical forms in a lot of ways, and specific musicians. Like at one point, Dewey has a sort of Brian Wilson-esque breakdown trying to make this like version, like this kind of like Smile-esque thing where it's like this way too ambitious freak show album thing. It's funny as hell, and really that's what it comes down to. Like,
I don't think I like that main actor guy.
You don't like John C. Reilly?
John C.
I don't think so. Is he the guy that kind of talks a little bit like Bulldog?
I'm sorry,
Bulldog.
who, Bulldog?
Or who's the guy from
Coach?
No, who's the guy from Police Academy that like?
That is not John C. Reilly.
No,
John C.
do
Reilly.
you know who I'm talking about though?
No.
Who doesn't actually form words, but he just sort of makes sounds.
Oh yes, I don't remember his name.
Bulldog, I think.
No, it's not Bulldog.
It's like a name like Bulldog,
Okay.
but it's not him.
No.
Okay.
No. John C. Reilly is.
You lent us Walk
I
Hard
did.
in hopes that
I
we might
gave you
see
a
it.
stack of potential parodies of which you watched none.
Yeah, I blame the audience a little bit for that.
Yeah,
for
we watched some other
selecting,
things.
for selecting some other things.
But yeah, I mean, this, I will just say to wrap up Walk Hard, comes from a group of filmmakers that I don't particularly like. The Apatow thing has sort of just drained on me over the years. The trailers I thought looked awful. I heard from a lot of people, it's really good, you need to check it out. And I checked it out a few years back, and it's really, really goddamn funny. And one of the only times in all of Apatow's career as a producer that the longer version of the film, because there's a director's cut, like adds material that I'm glad was there.
From a parody application perspective, this would qualify for me. I'm fine if it delves into some spoofing of other films. If its main focus
this
is
one
Walk
is
Hard.
this one's absolutely a parody. Like it is clearly first and foremost based on Walk the Line.
Okay.
Bobcat.
I mean, just based on
Bobcat
the title.
Bobcat.
It's not Bobcat
no,
Goldthwait.
Not at all.
Oh, okay. See, that's who I pictured.
No,
His voice can be a little squeaky sometimes.
it can be,
A
but
little
yeah.
squeaky.
Gets a little squeaky sometimes.
What is yours?
No question that mine is a parody. It's a parody of a movie that, as 9-year-old Rob watched, I was in awe. And then when I watched the parody of this movie, I questioned whether or not I really I should admire the original as much. And that the original in this case is Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, and the parody of Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, Robin Hood, Men in Tights, 1993. Hour 44 minutes, 6.7 on IMDb. Rotten Tomatoes, only 48%. I understand, not quality movie from a critic's perspective. Written and directed by parody master, spoof master himself, Mel Brooks, starring Cary Elwes. You guys mentioned Princess Bride here.
Yeah, he's in there.
Earlier, he's in here. Richard Lewis as Prince John. Roger Rees as Sheriff of Rottingham, which he was hilarious. Tracy Ullman as the Witch, fantastic. I really loved this movie. It really poked a lot of fun at the movie that I held in high regard, and I was like, oh yeah, that doesn't
I was
make a
going
lot
to
of
say,
sense.
I don't want anything that's going to make fun of that movie.
It like the fact that Kevin Costner had an American accent, like he wasn't even trying to have an English accent. There was a lot of things where it makes fun of the original.
And to me, like that
setup.
specific joke is kind of a low hanging fruit.
Yes.
Situation.
Well, there were other jokes, and I'm afraid to go back and watch this because I feel like there would be a lot of things now that I would deem culturally insensitive now. That goes to a lot of Mel Brooks
that's
movies.
such a huge. I mean, that happens with any comedy. There comes a certain point where I think you just need to like be okay with it.
Yeah,
or you can't watch.
We
all
watched
comedies.
rewatched Blazing Saddles recently, and rewatching that, I was like,
Holy moly.
this is really offensive.
But I
Holy
think,
moly.
that is a movie that is inoffensive.
satirical way.
It's satirical.
Yeah, it's satirical
Is the thing.
in that way.
Satirical and offensive, yeah.
But yeah, I like this. It's funny how they one up. So there are scenes where, for example, Cary Elwes in Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, Robin Hood loses his father, is killed.
It's very sad.
So to up the ante, Cary Elwes loses his father, his mother, his dog, his cat.
That's a good scene. I really like the delivery of the line "choked on the goldfish."
I've never seen this.
It's
better than Prince of Thieves.
See, that's the thing. I love Prince of Thieves, so I don't think I want to know.
it is the perfect exemplifies to me what a parody is. And Richard Lewis as Prince John is amusing with his mole kind of moving.
Who plays Christian Slater?
Christian Slater's character. I don't know if there is like a no one stands out. I know Amy Yazbek plays Maid Marian. But yeah, Roger Rees and Tracy Ullman, their exchange when towards the end scene where he falls through the roof and She's trying to force himself. The witch.
Yeah,
which
the
I know
witch
you're
top 5 witches.
Top 5 witches for you. Imagine if the witch wanted to like force herself onto the sheriff. Like that's kind of what happens in Robin Hood. Men in Tights.
Tracy Ullman's really good in it.
Yes, she is.
I will say this. In large part, because of Mel Brooks, I limited myself to one film per director.
Oh, you did?
I did.
Okay. I know what you picked.
So this one could not have been on my list. That being said, if I were to have included Mel Brooks films, I don't think this one would have been on my top 5.
Yeah, I don't imagine it would have been, but I may have some Mel Brooks. I did not limit myself to one Mel Brooks. I'll just say that.
Do you have, in fact, 5 Mel Brooks films on your list?
He is the master of the. It goes between, for me, spoof and parody, so maybe you might see him back on my list. In the meantime, Victor, Becca Stewart, and Constance Wozniak also had this movie on their list, Robin Hood Men in Tights. Right. Kara, number 4 to you.
Number 4, this is probably on Rob's, is the 1986, The Three Amigos.
It's not a parody to me.
So let me tell you about this parody. So it's directed by John Landis, who did Spies Like Us.
He did.
Is that a parody?
That is a parody. Well, that's a spoof.
It's like a spoofy parody. Really like Spies Like Us. But anyway, The Three Amigos, also it's written by Steve Martin, who also acts in it as well.
He does.
So
he is an amigo.
3 out-of-work silent movie actors are accidentally drawn to a Mexican village that is being harassed by a bunch of gangs and outlaws and bad people. They come and they think they're coming for a job. And then Ned, Lucky Day, and Dusty Bottoms play Lone Ranger types in their movies when they're back at home. But anyway, so yeah, Dusty Bottoms, you're even laughing.
No, I'm laughing. I love this movie.
It's good as a parody. And then they go and they look out, and then all of a sudden they come upon El Guapo. Do you know what that means?
It means the shit.
No.
Wait, no.
The big one?
See, this is where...
The fat one.
What is
fat?
What is bat? Guano. Guano is shit.
Yeah, let me tell you. I'm going to rein some things out. Here comes the expert. I took 4 years of Spanish.
I know he's infamous.
Guapo. It's the handsome.
Oh, the handsome.
Yeah.
I know he's infamous, which means
he's
just really famous.
He's really famous. And so they think El Guapo's got a job for them. But when they get there, they realize he's not an actor, but he's an evil gang leader. And he abducts somebody. El Guapo does. Abducts the mayor's daughter. But it's up to the 3 amigos, played by Steve Martin, Chevy Chase, and Martin Short. I don't know how that can possibly get a better lineup of 3 parody people to save the day.
You know, Tim.
Yes.
Good.
I'm thinking I should retract my statement that this is not a parody. It is very much a parody of like the Seven Samurai or the Magnificent Seven, except there's only 3.
I can.
Like a little bit.
I can accept that for the purposes of moving the conversation.
Did you ever see The Magnificent 3?
I can't say
it was
that
in
I
1972.
I don't believe that that's the truth.
It's maybe a lie.
I did consider
but if it wasn't,
I did consider this movie. I left it up because I couldn't find a way to convince myself that it was a parody.
So this is a parody on a genre for me. The whole
that's what I stuck genres. If it's parodying a genre, then it's out for me because I consider that a spoof. Just for me, just my.
I'm still not 1,000% sure I understand what genre it's spoofing.
It's genrering westerns, like gang westerns, gang.
Okay.
Westerns, you know?
So you think it's more of just a comedy?
It's just a comedy.
I
think it's a Western comedy.
I can see where you would think that. But everyone else agrees with me. This was on everyone's list, right, Rob?
No.
Oh, right. All right. So let's move along to tips number 4.
So this is the one where I was most concerned about whether it even met my definition of parody / spoof in terms of, is it mocking the genre or is it merely a comedy set in the genre? So this is an Edgar Wright film. And the reason that I bring this up is because I think there's another Edgar Wright film that I didn't put on my list that is very clearly a comedy set in a genre, but not a parody of that genre. And I think a lot of people would disagree with that. So we'll see if it's on either of your lists. The one on my list is the 2007 action comedy parody wonderful thing, Hot Fuzz, starring Simon Pegg as Nicholas Angel, who is an super cop in England who gets kicked off, not kicked off the force, but beat down to working in this very pleasant little crime-free rural community where he meets Danny Butterman, played by Nick Frost, who's this pudgy, overweight, copling who's just really absolutely enthralled with having a big city cop that can show him how to like jump through the air shooting guns with both hands and things like that.
Have you seen this, Rob?
Oh, I love this movie.
Oh,
Such
do
a
you?
good movie.
Yeah.
It's not on your list, though?
No,
Come on.
It's just,
I mean, it's definitely not a parody. It's definitely a spoof if it's either.
Yep. I'd give it a spoof.
It does make specific reference to a few films. I don't think you could say it's a parody of any of those specific films, but just as a comedy pointing out that we can love action films despite the fact that action films are just the dumbest goddamn thing. Like, I find that charming, and it turns into like this really great riff on like 80s action plot cliches that works really, really well. I think I give nothing away if I say that the very pleasant, crime-free small town turns out to not necessarily be that thing. And yeah, it's hilarious. It fits it manages the very rare feat of being like really damn long. I think it's over 2 hours long, and it's funny for literally like every minute of those 2 hours. And yeah, it's just a really good like piss take of action movies that also happens to be kind of a really good action movie. And that's why I wasn't sure if I could count it or not. Because like, is this an action comedy or is this an action spoof? And I don't know, but I know I love it a lot either way.
Oh, it's a great pick. And this is why I struggled with leaving out spoofs, because I think the movies, if I had a mix of top 5 spoofs with parodies, spoofs would win out as far as number of contributions to the list. So I ended up going with, this next one's going to irritate Tim because I'm sure it's high up on his list. But it is a parody of a movie called 0 Hour. Primarily, I think lifts pretty much the shot, like some of the shots, and even
it flat out uses the script.
I love that you guys know that you're talking about.
They bought remake rights.
Well, there
it is
you
a
go.
remake of 0 Hour.
And we're talking about, I guess, is it 1979 or 1980?
It's 1980.
Yeah, it's 1980's Airplane with an
That's
exclamation
my number
point.
3.
Really?
It's also my number 3.
You're
I
kidding.
thought this would be like number 1.
Wait, is
for
this
you
your
guys.
number 3?
No, number
This is
4.
number 4.
This is amazing. That's pretty close.
nice.
Nicely done, guys.
Nice grouping.
All right. Well,
Told you we'd have some overlap.
written and directed by the Zaz Group.
Abraham Zucker.
You got it. Starring Robert Hayes, Julie Haggerty, Leslie Nielsen, and Lloyd Bridges. 97% Rotten Tomatoes. Well done. 7.8 on IMDb. It is a flight gone wrong. It is a flight gone wrong. They get bad food.
They do get bad food.
Food poisoning, yep.
Yeah. What was the food? I don't remember.
The fish.
It was the fish. Yeah, you
believe.
never
It's
order the
always the
fish.
fish.
Yeah, you
Because
never
the
order
captain
fish.
has the like very perfect little fish skeleton on his plate.
What this is for me is, I know, Carrie, you like deadpan humor, and I know I'll let you get into this, but this is just the best application
So
of
good.
deadpan, and like that's how they instructed the actors to go with every comedic and absolutely over the top goofy scene.
Because it's interesting because it's a parody of 0 Hour. It's a spoof of the like the disaster genre of the 70s. So like they're going at it from two different angles, and I think the deadpanness kind of comes from more so from the like the George Kennedy-esque, very stern, serious, and Airplane, or not, the airport movies type character. But yeah, no, I concur. Like, it's not only that it's deadpan humor. There's some like random ass cutaway jokes. There's some really just good wordplay. But yeah, I mean, obviously, like the entire focus of like the Lloyd Bridges or
Totally.
Leslie Nielsen characters are just saying ridiculous things in a very straightforward way.
Lloyd Bridges versus Leslie Nielsen, who steals the show for you, or is
Leslie
there someone
Nielsen.
else? Is there someone else?
Say it at the same time, but I already said it. Did you hear me what I said?
I did hear what you said. Oof. You know, my heart says Leslie Nielsen, but my head says that nothing in the film is better than the "I picked the wrong week to quit" X running joke.
Yeah.
This entire movie is
Entire movie.
is awesome. Did
Yeah,
you
and 10.
know that Nielsen was a practical joker in real life? And so he would prank people by using a fart machine all the time. And so his gravestone actually says "Let her rip" on his actual gravestone.
Is that a Frank? Oh no, is that an Airplane?
No, like this is just in his real life.
Frank from The Naked Gun. I don't know if that's
I think that's a Frank Drebin.
Oh, is it?
Drebin reference, maybe.
Is it? But it's actually on his real gravestone.
Which I'll say now, like The Naked Gun is important to me.
I was torn in half between Airplane and The Naked Gun as my Zucker movie.
Yeah.
I chose against The Naked Gun largely on the grounds that I think it's less of a parody and more
that's
just like random absurd humor.
And that's why I had it number 1 on my list, but I couldn't figure out what it wasn't a parody.
Yeah, the show it's based on, Police Squad, is very clearly a parody or at least a spoof of cop shows.
Yeah. And that was too
Wait,
broad.
Police Squad would have counted?
No, because Police Squad's a TV show.
Oh, no, you know what? I'm thinking of Police Academy. I had that on here, and then I was like, no, they're going to say it's not a parody. Would a Police Academy be a parody?
I would be hard-pressed to call that a parody.
Okay,
No,
good. I
that's
didn't
a
include
comedy.
it. I didn't include it.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Also, listeners Zev Burrows, Rachel Scatia, and Nitrate Glow. Love the name. Also had Airplane on their list.
I'm shocked only 3 people had an Airplane on their list.
Well, no, more people did.
people
I
did.
limit it to 3.
Okay.
I limit it to 3.
He doesn't want to spoil the statistics.
Yeah, I don't want you to
later
get
that he,
get
pulled the
inside
numbers on.
information.
So
All right.
it's my number
number
2, but
Well,
it's
no, it rounds all the way back to Rob because you and I both
Yeah,
hit 3.
so you have to
now
go
it's
with your
back to
3.
your
I'm back to 3. Well, we're keeping in line with our parody and
Don't
spoof
take it.
master.
Oh, come
This
on.
is going to be on Carrie's list.
you did it. You
I'm talking
had to.
about
You always
this
do
is
this
number
to
1.
me. Yeah.
1987 Spaceballs.
You're the worst.
Well,
Yeah,
cool.
you took my number 1.
Then you talk about it.
I don't want to talk about it.
I want to eat more Tim's brownies.
All right, you eat his Cajun brownies. So, Spaceballs. So, this is 1987,
Directed
like
by
you mentioned.
Taika Waititi.
It's Taika. It's
Sorry, Taika Waititi.
It's so, as Rob mentioned, it's directed and written by Mel Brooks, who is also in this movie. And so King Roland of the planet of Druidia is trying to marry his daughter, Princess Vespa, off to Prince Valium.
Yes.
Right? But Prince Vespa is kidnapped by the evil race of Spaceballs. The Spaceballs ask Roland for ransom, all of the air of Druidia.
Yep.
And so then he hires off these space rogues, Lone Star, to persuade him to save Vespa. So this is Mel Brooks. John Candy plays Barf, who's like the dog thing. Rick Moranis plays Doc Helmet, which is like Darth Vader. That's the parody on Darth
is.
Vader, just in case you didn't know that, Tim.
I appreciate you pointing that out.
I just want to provide some insights here. Bill Pullman plays Lone Star, and Joan Rivers plays Dot Matrix. Did you know that? So this is, you know what? This isn't even a parody. This is called a parody better than the original.
So that's interesting that you say that. I wondered if I assumed you'd have this on your list. It's fun, and I think it speaks to it. It's how great it is because of the fact that you have not really taken in Star Wars to really appreciate like all
I've
the
seen
inside
bits
jokes.
and pieces, but I don't need to see it after I've seen Spaceballs.
And I think that's
really.
what makes it incredible for like
It's
the
so
fact
good.
that it's good that it stands alone as a sci-fi
So good.
parody of a movie that you haven't seen.
Tell me this. Is there anything in the other Star Wars with a giant blow dryer or combing the desert with a giant comb?
No, there's
They're
not.
See, I didn't think so.
easily
There's some
could be in the
holes.
prequels. I might have forgotten.
They do comb the desert.
They do comb
but
the
not
desert
with a giant comb.
Exactly, and
Yes.
that's the problem. That's like the plot hole that's happening there in the other Star Wars movies. So this is why it's number 1, and this is why it will forever be the best parody.
It's
of all
one of
time.
those rare instances where you'll have like reverse referential like insight because you're seeing the spoof first.
Sure.
And then I don't know how often that can happen. That's like when we get to Star Wars, which is coming soon.
I don't know that I feel comfortable seeing it. I mean, what if it just doesn't stand up? You know?
But you're going to get
then that can be the thing.
That can
you
be my
go on
thing,
funny
about.
yeah.
that you're
Make
going to
us both
get
very annoyed.
you're going to get the jokes, but you're going to get them in the reverse order that they were meant to. Like you're
Yeah, I'm
meant-
like, you're
oh,
trying to be Spaceballs.
you're trying to be Spaceballs.
Yeah, you're not Dot Matrix. You're
Even though this is
C2PO.
almost
Yeah.
10 years past, which, shame, a little bit for shame, but it still did well. I think it brought in, I don't know, $38 million, made for $23 million. It's released almost 10 years after Star Wars had.
10 years after the first Star Wars, 4 years after Return of the Jedi.
So a little late.
Primarily focuses on the first 2, a little bit of Jedi in there, but mostly Star Wars. And,
Probably took so long to make because it
Empire.
was such like a high film quality and all that kind of stuff. You know?
Focused on the script.
Can you imagine how long it took to make a comb that big? You know what I mean?
But it took at least a week.
At least.
That's why I made you
Maybe more.
dark helmet in the.
Dark Helmet.
I
is
made
the-
you dark helmet.
No,
By the way,
appreciate
what
that.
did you make me in the image?
With
You
the
were
sweating.
Airplane.
I looked like I was in the gay porn parody of a movie. Is what I looked like I was in.
You were supposed to be Robert Hayes.
I was covered
Sweating.
in cum. Just
got-
dripping.
you got the
dripping
headshot?
rivulets of cum down my face.
We're
And
still
I don't know
recording,
how you
not
looked
an
into my
outtake.
life and saw what I do on Saturdays when I'm not podcasting, but I don't appreciate it.
We also had Brendan Klein, Catherine Clark, and Joy Vigil also select Spaceballs. So Tim, Spaceballs not on your list.
Spaceballs is not a favorite of mine. I think the
Still
humor,
not- wouldn't make
the
your-
humor's a little. It would be in my top 5 Mel Brooks films.
Okay.
It's better than Robin Hood. I think the humor's a little
Wonderful.
too big,
A little too good. Yeah.
a little too broad.
So that makes it to your number.
That makes it to my number 2. So my number 2 Another one that I was sort of like, is this a parody? And I think it's a parody. 1975's Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
Tell me about this movie.
This is a movie by Monty Python, the British film or British comedy troupe of, let's see if I can go through them all. Graham Chapman, John Cleese, Eric Idle, Terry Jones, Terry Gilliam, Michael Palin, and did I just name 6 people?
I wasn't counting.
I think I named 6 people. I think that's.
I was still thinking about how you said you didn't like Spaceballs that much, to be honest. I don't know what you said, but keep going.
So anyway, so this is a film about the quest for the Holy Grail, as conducted by King Arthur and his Knights of the Round Table. I think it possibly is a specific parody in that there is one scene that I'm pretty sure is specifically referencing the film Lancelot du Lac by Robert Bresson. Very much a debating point. Like, this is not something that had ever crossed my mind until slightly less than a year ago when I saw Lancelot du Lac for the first time. But setting that aside, it is a parody of the general like medieval fantasy quest movie in which all of the material of medieval quests is sort of sent up to be just really dumb and like beside the point and ridiculous. So King Arthur and his knights go on quests, and the things they find that those quests are very absurd, and it frustrates them how absurd they are, and then that big fact that they're frustrating makes things even more absurd. Very much a movie that knows it's a movie. Like, the characters never really turn around and like acknowledge the camera, but you can always kind of tell that they are aware they're in a fiction, which I like a lot, and it pays off really, really well at the end of the film. But until then, it's basically just like this. They're sketch comedians. Like, they did a sketch comedy show, so it plays as sketches. Like, here's the sketch where Lancelot is at a wedding where he kills everybody, and here's the scene where Galahad, the sexually pure, is in a castle full of very attractive 17-year-old girls, and
it does nothing.
And does nothing.
The duel scene is still like where chopping off limbs and things.
That is the scene that I think might be a specific parody of Lancelot du Lac.
Yeah, that is so amazing.
Where King Arthur is dueling with the Black Knight and keeps chopping his limbs off, and eventually chops all of his limbs off, and the Black Knight still wants to fight him. So just ridiculous stuff like that. It's a movie that, like, no doubt about it, has been over quoted by its fans.
I can't think of any quotes I've ever heard.
Then you might still potentially
tell me a quote. What's your favorite quote?
No, because I don't want to ruin it.
That's okay.
Because that's the whole thing. Is like, I think this movie, the people who love it go on about how much they love it so goddamn much that even as someone who loves it, I feel like I'm just sick of the movie, kind of. But, trying to slew off all of the accretion of like too many years of knowing the movie and too many years of hearing it quoted, it's funny as hell.
If you haven't seen it ever, does this humor stand up seeing it for a first time today?
Yeah, I mean, you need to have a pretty specific sense of humor, and it requires a fairly literate sense of absurdity. Like, there are jokes about like how awful history was in like the 14th century.
Sure.
If Spanish Inquisition.
Would I like it, Rob?
You liked Fish Called Wanda and the British humor?
I think if you liked A Fish Called Wanda, I think you'd at least... You would not dislike this. You might not love it, but I think you would at least like it.
Insider information in history would be helpful.
Okay.
Like a little bit.
There's one very wonderful scene that's all about like communism in medieval England. That it's not like historical, but it benefits from knowing.
From knowing, yeah.
But mostly it's just like ridiculous non sequiturs that are very wonderful. A famous joke, and one of the ones that made me feel like it's okay to call this a spoof. They don't have horses; they just have coconuts, and their squires like walk after them, clapping their coconuts to make hoof sounds. So stuff like that, and like, so that's joke level 1. Joke level 2 is all the other characters in the movie are really pissed off that all the knights don't have horses; they're just running around with coconuts.
Okay.
So like, it's that kind of movie. And
all right.
I think it's brilliant. Good. It's a brilliant movie that I will probably never watch again for the rest of my life because I've just gotten overexposed. But it is brilliant.
But not on your list, Rob.
Not on my list. Kara, what's number 2 for you?
Oh, yeah, it's my number 2.
Yeah, we'll go to you first.
So this is it for me, and I'm done.
Oh, wait, what was your number 1? Oh, Spaceballs. Spaceballs. Well, I'll go number 2.
Okay.
Number 2 for me.
Do you need us to pause?
Pause for what?
If you're going to go number 2.
Oh, God.
We're on the air,
really?
Rob.
Good one.
No, it's a terrible one.
No, it's very, very bad.
It was a poo joke, Rob.
No, this movie, I thought about it more and more, and I ranked mine in order of just, as I do all my movies, just pure enjoyment. Like, once I've narrowed down my list to...
Better not take mine.
I don't think you've seen this. This one is a parody of Star Trek films.
Okay.
Oh.
I don't know.
And it seemed like a lot of users enjoyed this movie as well, too. This is 1999's Galaxy Quest. So not even so much a parody of more Star Trek the series, but also Star Trek movies.
Star
as
Trek,
well.
Star
So
Trek as a, I think you can say a parody of a franchise is still a parody and not a spoof.
Okay. So
'Cause,
Karen,
I mean, Spaceballs is a parody of a franchise.
exactly. So it's the alumni cast of a space opera television, kind of like a television show, like a Star Trek series, have to play their roles as the real thing. So they're these TV actors who've been playing the Star Trek show.
Okay.
And they get actually...
It's the Three Amigos.
It is this.
It's the literal plot of the Three Amigos.
It is kind of the Three Amigos. They get uprooted into space, and now you actually, hey, we've been getting your space signals from Earth, and like we see that you guys are like this really
Is there
talented
someone
group.
named El Guapo up there?
It is very much the plot of Three Amigos.
It's a bunch of actors get called in to do something that they do on TV, thinking that it's just doing a TV program,
Okay.
but it turns out that they're really doing it.
Yeah.
Oh.
So
This time it's Star
except
Trek.
it's inside. It's
And
in
there's
space.
gangsters, Mexican gangsters.
There are space gangsters.
Oh.
Yeah, the
of.
equivalent. And there's a helpless group of kind of cephalopods or
Okay.
Some sort of beings.
some sort of beings, and they're trying to stop a warlord from taking over their planet. But like they've built this whole alien legion has built kind of inspired by this television show, like a ship just like theirs and everything, and they think they're the real deal. So these TV actors played by Tim Allen, Sigourney Weaver, Sam Rockwell.
Oh yeah,
Sam Rockwell as like
this was like the first time that I think most of us
expendable
noticed
person.
Sam Rockwell.
Yeah, as the expendable person. Typical Star Trek movies. Or in shows, there's always like the
red
fifth
shirt.
Yeah,
guy who
the
just,
red
Scotty.
shirt
guy
guy
who comes up to get
no,
killed.
not Scotty.
No,
Oh.
the guy who goes on away missions to get killed to prove that there's a threat.
Oh, okay.
So like it's like if you're that guy, you know you're gonna
Like,
die.
and his
shoot,
name is
yeah.
Guy.
Yeah, something
Like the characters make fun of him because his name is Guy. He doesn't have a surname.
I
And
see.
so all the other characters are sure he's the one who's going to die.
Got it.
So that's a
This
wonderful
actually
bit.
sounds really good.
Oh, you'd love it.
Oh, really? I
You'd like
think
it.
I
You'd
would.
like it.
I think
I won't say L.
I think
I'll
I'd
say
like
love.
to more than like it. It sounds like
It's a lot of fun, and it pokes fun at all of the typical tropes of that you would find in the Star Trek movies.
Yeah.
Directed by Dean Parasot, who did Red 2 Home Fries and Fun with Dick and Jane.
You know, everyone's got to have their one moment
I guess.
of glory.
I guess also doing Bill and Ted's next movie, Face the Music.
There's a Bill and Ted's
It's in
next
production.
movie.
Yeah, apparently it's in production.
How
Keanu Reeves in it?
fucked.
Oh, absolutely. So,
Wow.
Ted Theodore Roosevelt and or did I get
Bill
that
S.
right?
but It's Ted.
Something Preston.
Ted Theodore Logan
Ted Theodore Logan. No.
and Bill S. Prescott.
Ah, damn it! I don't know.
I don't know. It's been a while since I've seen him.
I want to see this
I
now.
will say this about Galaxy Quest. I think that there's a secret ingredient to parodies and spoofs that people forget. You can't make them of things you hate. And this is the problem with a lot of like those god awful like date movie Meet the Spartans don't do this correctly. A lot of like the Scary Movie don't do this. To do these things well, it needs to be something you love.
Yeah.
Because if you
Agreed.
know it, then you can point out what's silly about it.
Agreed.
And Galaxy Quest is such a Star Trek fan love letter.
Yeah.
And as a Star Trek fan, like it is something that makes me feel very good about it. I love this movie.
Well said. Cannon Crook, Rick Beck, and Diane Wolfe also had it on their list. So we're now to number ones. Care, go ahead.
I'm actually to my number
she's
two.
at her number two.
Number two.
At my number
Sorry,
two. Work on those MC skills over there. But
He's got like
it's-
no kidneys.
it's like down to one. I am obsessed with this movie that I just saw. And I love this movie so much. So I want to talk about it. It's directed and written by my new favorite director and writer, apparently, Taika Waititi.
Oh, of course.
And Jermaine Clement, who I also, like, I wish I had his face. I've already determined, like, if I had Jermaine Clement's face, my life would just be better, I think. Because his face is, like, the funniest thing.
He's got a good
Jerry-
face.
Jermaine Clement
His
is
face is, like,
hilarious.
my favorite face.
Just
So
looking at him, man.
this is the 2014's What We Do in the Shadows.
Such a good movie.
I am like riding the high of this movie still. I am like obsessed with how funny this movie was. So I don't even know how to talk about it. So it's like a documentary style film that's set in Wellington, New Zealand, and it follows three vampires, or it starts off following these three vampires who are played by Jermaine Clement, plays I can't even pronounce his name, Vladislav. He's like the vampire that's really into himself and his looks.
4 vampires.
He starts off with 3, right? Oh no, there's 4. Sorry.
So I just need to interject real fast while you're
Yeah.
listing the vampires. Part of the thing I love about this, part of what I think makes it a really good spoof,
Yeah.
each of the 4 vampires maps onto like a different genre of vampire fiction. It's so fucking cool.
It's amazing. Taika Waititi plays Viago. Johnny Brew plays Deacon, and Ben Francham plays Peter, who's like this creepy, scary.
Peter is like the medieval
Peter's the
concept
best.
of like vampire as like devouring ghoul made out of
Like
nothing but rotted
fangs,
flesh.
yeah.
Like the
Nosferatu.
Willem Dafoe Nosferatu
Or,
kind of.
or like the Max Schreck Nosferatu.
Or man, there you
the
go.
one that Willem Dafoe was playing in a movie.
Peter is the best. I love
good.
Peter. I
It's so
love
good.
Peter. So anyway, if you haven't seen this movie, I'm not going to spoil. I don't even know if there's anything to spoil about it, but if
It's got a plot, but who fucking cares?
you don't care at all, because this thing is, everything is Jermaine Clement's face and Taika Waititi's voice in this entire movie for me, and Ben Francham's body. I don't know. His whole face is just, his whole system is working for me. So anyway, it follows these 4 vampires and records their daily lives in its documentary style. So they follow all these domestic conflicts. So like, what happens when you live with 4 vampires? Like, who's going to clean the freaking bloody dishes? You know?
They're all flatmates.
They're all flatmates. And they have like the best voices. I literally laughed my way through this entire movie. Like, who's going to pay the rent? And like, there's all these conflicts that happen throughout.
This is why I couldn't love Thor, because I wanted Thor to be this.
No. So this was actually probably funnier than Thor.
It's totally funnier
It's
than
really
Thor.
funny. So anyway, and then it fits into the everyday world. Then like they bring in this 5th vamp, and I won't tell you who it is, but his name is something. And Nick. But anyway, they bring in this 4th vamp, and it's like acculturating this new vampire into their like
Yes.
group, which is awesome. And then they have this non-vamp friend named Stu, which like the only reason it was so funny was his name was Stu. Like, what a perfect name for
what
a
this movie
non-vamp
does is,
friend.
like, you lived in a sorority, not a sorority house, but like you lived
Yeah.
in college, you lived with other,
I
like
was
a small
yeah.
group of, and
I
you
think I
dealt
was
with,
Johnny. I think I was probably Deacon. Unfortunately, I wish I was Taika
But that's what I'm saying.
Waititi.
So
Yeah.
you can identify, like, and you just apply vampires to that situation and how that
Totally.
would, you know,
The
like,
dynamic. Like, hey, clean up your
'cause
vacuum.
You had to collect rent,
Yeah.
right? Like for bills.
Oh
and
yeah, I
things.
was the
Right.
rent collector.
So you were the Taika Waititi.
And you know what
kind of
happened to me?
character.
I always ended up like, oh, you're a little bit short. Oh yeah, sure. And I'd be like, get back to me next month. But like, that was me. So yeah, I totally identified with all of these things. If you have not seen this
Oh my
movie,
god, it's so fucking good. See it.
it's
See it
the
right
funniest
now.
thing I think I've
Streaming
seen
right
in like
now,
the
I think,
last
on Netflix.
Funniest thing I think I've seen in the last several years.
I want to disagree with you very deeply on one and only one point.
What part?
You failed to mention what for me is the standout.
What is that? The werewolves?
It's Rhys Darby as the leader of the werewolves.
Oh yeah, no. I hadn't gotten there. I didn't want to like keep going on and on about
But
it.
you got to talk about the
He's
werewolves.
so good. The werewolves come in. There's like this like turf war thing that starts to happen with the werewolves, but then they like meet as non-werewolves and vamps, sort of.
And like the werewolf leader is like this super buttoned up conservative guy who's like trying to be
so
like a really nice
good.
neighborhood dad.
I know.
And you are aware there's a werewolf oriented spin-off in the works.
Oh,
What
nice.
is it?
It's called Werewolves.
Oh, I'm gonna love it. And is it gonna be?
It's going to be
Taika
them.
Waititi though.
Taika Waititi making it.
Oh,
Rhys
it's
Darby
so
and
good.
I did
the
want to
cast.
say that I excluded this movie mostly because I consider it a mockumentary.
It's
That's
not.
and I don't consider it parodying anything.
This is
specific.
the one and only mockumentary I can name that I think would also fill the need of a spoof for me.
It could fill a spoof.
Although it's an edge case, so I decided against it.
And like when they get mad at each other and they start to fly and they're like, but like, oh my gosh,
It's so good. It's
a lot of good stuff.
The scenes, and I'm gonna stop talking about it, but it's so good. If you haven't seen it, race out and go to Netflix in your bedroom and see it. Isn't it on Netflix?
or whatever room you keep your
Streaming
Netflix
on
in.
Netflix.
Streaming on Netflix. Go see it
Right
in
now.
your bedroom
Tonight.
tonight. What does that make your number 2?
Well, that makes my number 2. We've done, so this is my number 1.
number 1, I'm sorry, yeah.
And we're gonna just stick right in with horror parodies. As a matter of fact,
Scary movie.
No.
Oh, I know.
Mine is. So I said I could only have one film per director, and my one Mel Brooks film was going to be my number 1 film. So it's 1974's Young Frankenstein. I love Blazing Saddles a lot, but I love Young Frankenstein more. This is a parody of the Universal Frankenstein movies, made with the props and set pieces from the Universal Frankenstein movies, shot in black and white at Mel Brooks's extremely agitated insistence to make it as close to those films as he possibly could. So this is the story of Frederick Frankenstein, who would prefer that you pronounce it Frankenstein, the grandson of Dr. Victor Frankenstein, who, in order to clear his family's name, returns to Transylvania, where his grandfather did all of his notorious experiments with resurrecting dead bodies. And instead of proving that Victor Frankenstein was a sober man of science, Frederick Frankenstein discovers instead that his grandfather really was resurrecting dead people and decides to do the same. So Gene Wilder plays Frederick. Marty Feldman plays Igor the Hunchback. Madeline Kahn plays Frederick's very uptight fiancée, Elizabeth. Terry Garr is the buxom village girl who is like the assistant at Castle Frankenstein. Cloris Leachman is the old housekeeper who was around back in the day when Victor Frankenstein was making his first experiments. This gets right to what I was saying about like a good parody is an act of love. This movie is so utterly in love with the Universal Frankenstein movies and every last little detail of its plot, of its setting, of the way that it sort of moves through its narrative. Jokes are based on specific scenes from the Frankenstein movies. Like there's one part in the first Frankenstein where the monster throws a young girl into a well. And there's a part in this movie where the monster is approaching a young girl at the edge of a river doing exactly what the girl is doing in the 1931 film. And the monster just like looks at the camera as a like, I'm not going to fucking throw her in the well sort of gesture. And it's just adorable if you know that it's an in-joke. This is just a delightful, wonderful, funny movie.
Does it play on more on one Frankenstein than another?
It plays primarily on the 1931, although there's stuff from Bride of Frankenstein.
Okay.
And it also just plays off like our cultural knowledge of Frankenstein.
Sure. I've only read the book.
It's not a very good book.
I mean, it was short.
The movies are better.
Yeah.
I gotta say, I'm not a huge fan of the book. It's like weirdly early 19th century philosophy for a horror novel. But no, this is just, it's adorable. It's, by Mel Brooks standards, reasonably like friendly and clean and just in love with movies rather than sort of trying to be obnoxious and loud and assaultive in ways that are good when Mel Brooks does them. But
I'm nodding my head because from what I recall of seeing this probably at age 10, 12, something like that for the first time and the last time as well, I remember it not being as overtly goofy as some of the other ones. Where did this fall for?
I think that gets to why I like it more than like Spaceballs.
Yeah, and you can tell that
the humor's so much smaller.
What I remember is the appreciation of and the just the loving of the original source material. Where did this fall for us from an audience pick? Was this number 2? Because I know you sent this with us, Tim, as a possibility.
I think it was a number 2. Blazing Saddles was number 1.
Yeah,
and Blazing Saddles was my other. Like those are my 2 actual favorite parodies, but I didn't want 2 Mel Brooks films.
I think I needed a rewatch of this. And when did you see this last?
Probably 4 or 5 years of this movie.
Yeah, see, I need to...
But I've also seen this movie at least a dozen times.
Okay. Yeah, I think this would probably make my list had a rewatch happened. But unfortunately, it did not.
There are so many quotes that I can't quote because you wouldn't understand what the hell I was saying.
I'd probably get them.
I would... I mean,
that's
most
you
of my...
all in the hay.
No, I don't know.
All in the hay.
I do remember the putting on the Ritz.
That's a good scene.
I'll probably need some more quotes like that to understand what you're saying. Like
that's
maybe
the
more
only
in that
one.
accent.
That's the only quote in that accent that I have.
And Gene Wilder, the character who plays Frankenstein, who's pretty solid.
He's great.
He's in a lot of TV. I think he's like Ray Romano's dad. Maybe, I don't know.
He is most certainly not Ray Romano.
Not Ray Romano's dad. Sorry,
Peter Boyle.
Peter Boyle. Oh, so for a while you were sleeping.
Oh, with the eyebrows?
His dad.
Oh, okay.
Yes, I believe.
Okay.
Peter Boyle does have eyebrows.
He does have eyebrows.
He's bald.
Most people have eyebrows.
Not everybody though.
My number 1 parodies.
What is it? I can't even think of what it's going to be.
Not the spy genre, but in particular 007. And I'm going with Austin Powers, The International.
Is this a real thing? This is your number 1?
This is like of all the movies that if you ask me, like,
no.
I had to sit down and watch a particular movie.
When he said parodies 007, I thought he was going for Spy Hard, so Austin Powers feels like the right classy choice.
out of the 2.
It's like, oh, thank God.
I had to squeeze in Leslie Nielsen somehow.
This is a number 5
You already
kind
did.
of
You
movie.
had Airplane.
I did. Oh, I did have Airplane. That's right.
This is a terrible number one.
This is. Why are you making me feel bad?
Sorry.
No,
You're kind of ill.
It's a fun movie.
No, it's
Sure.
it's
Tell us
a lot
I
of
remember
fun.
loving it when I was unsophisticated and 16 years old.
And that's where I've kind of stayed frozen in time.
And I
That's
like
true.
penis
As I
jokes.
look at your list, you do have Robin Hood Men in Tights.
Remember when he had the teapot and it was covering his man regions? Yeah, that was
I
really
remember
funny.
a lot of things
Yeah.
about Dr. Evil and Austin Powers, played by Mike Myers, directed by Jay Roach of Meet the Parents and Fockers and Mystery Alaska and Trumbo fame.
There is no such thing as
Trumbo
Trumbo.
fame. Yeah, I should take that one out. And Mystery Alaska, probably there is no fame. I actually like Mystery Alaska.
Like Baked Alaska.
Do you like Baked Alaska?
More than Mystery
This
Alaska.
one stars Mike Myers, Elizabeth Hurley, Robert Wagner, Seth Green. A 1960s hipster secret agent is brought out of cryo-freeze to oppose his greatest enemy in the 1990s. Where things have changed a bit since the 60s.
Sure.
60s, and he's a fish out of water.
Oh.
He is.
Yeah.
I'm looking at you like I'm mocking this film. I find Austin Powers one to be perfectly enjoyable. It's a fun,
Just
silly,
not a number
goofball
one
comedy.
parody
Well,
kind of
no.
movie.
It's like
right,
as I
yeah.
sit down to think about the movies that I think about the most that I'd want to see again, like right this moment, this one
That one rises to the top.
This one makes me laugh the most. I think.
More than Airplane, more than Spaceballs.
Yeah, I think so, and I think a lot of it is just recent. I'm on a recency issue.
Okay.
There is I probably could use watching Airplane again. I don't know if Spaceballs did it for me as much. Galaxy Quest, I think I should watch again. Well, Julian DeBerry, audience member Damien and Alex Frith, listeners, also had this as their number one. I don't know, it's funny. It's
fine. It's
got
fine.
all the tropes. It makes fun of all the kind of cliche things that you'd see in a 007 movie. So I like spy movies.
Sure.
So making fun of a not only
You
a
like
genre
Heather
but
Graham?
She's in the second one.
she's in the second one.
Yeah, exactly.
But I do like Heather Graham from a
Second
from a,
one.
from a
Who's the
looks.
girl in the first one
Elizabeth
again?
Hurley.
Elizabeth
Oh, right.
British.
That's what I meant.
British, hard to deal with. So I think that she did not was not allowed back.
Oh, really?
for
Is
the-
that what it was?
I think that might have had something to do with it.
The only really highlight for that was the parking scene for me.
Parking
Oh, Parking Scene's
Parking
really
Scene's
good.
awesome, 'cause I feel
Which
like
actually
that every day.
has nothing to do with parody of any.
No, it doesn't.
As far
No,
as
but
I know,
it's
any
a good
scene.
gag.
It's
but it's
excellent.
pretty great. But the
I mean, I was of the right age at the right time to just sort of generically enjoy Dr. Evil.
Yeah,
All
Dr.
of
Evil
the
for
jokes
me-
surrounding him.
I enjoy. Every
I mean,
week,
the $1 million bit still works.
$1
Yeah.
million.
And he's actually Austin Powers too, you know,
Oh, is he?
as well.
You
Not
mean Mike
Austin Powers too, but
played
like
by the same person?
the same person. Yeah.
Wow.
The hell you say.
I know.
Well, every week we ask you to share your picks and thoughts for a chance to win a free Amazon movie rental. Based on the results, here are your top 5 picks. Standing alone at number 5. Yeah? What do you think? Robin Hood Men in Tights, ladies and gentlemen.
Readership.
Yes.
Rob's been
Listenership.
copying.
Top, then tied for number 4, we have Spaceballs,
Yes.
Hot Fuzz.
Okay.
There's your,
So some
your
love
fuzzy
there.
one. Yeah.
Blazing Saddles.
Yep. Didn't have that.
Blazing Saddles was only number 4.
Yeah.
Interesting.
At number 3, we have Galaxy Quest. Yes. Oh, but then upended at number 2 with a Young Frankenstein. Well done,
All right.
Tim.
Come on.
And then number 1,
question
Are we
what
doing
number
the
one
shadows?
is.
do we
Next
know?
question.
Well, go ahead,
Are we
Tim.
doing the
It's
shadows?
Airplane.
It is Airplane.
Oh,
Of
good. I
course it's
at least I
Airplane.
had that. Yeah.
Our lucky winner, Jason Stewart.
Tim covered in cum, the movie.
Who couldn't?
That'll be
choose
the
that?
third installment. Our lucky winner this week was Jason Stewart, who, much to his wife's delight, had Robin Hood Men in Tights, Spaceballs, Airplane, and Galaxy Quest. This is a friend of mine from school, and it just randomly ended up working out. But we have similar tastes in movies, clearly. I think all four made my list as well. Jason, shoot us an email at contact@alternatending.com for details on how to claim your free movie rental. If you want to win a free movie like Jason, be on the lookout for a spoiler alert or top 5 movie posts on Facebook and Twitter to share your favorite picks. In closing, thank you for listening. Check us out on social media. Go out to our Facebook page and like it. Check out our Twitter, where we're tweeting all the time about all of our updated content. Go out to alternatending.com, where you can find all that updated content, our blog posts, our movie reviews, and more. Subscribe to our podcast on iTunes or Google. And don't forget to leave a review. Kara, did we have a review recently?
We have a review from Connie Woods, and it's Great Movie Review Podcast.
Oh, thank
Which
you.
is, that was the title. That was the title.
Oh, that's just the title.
And then she says, I consider myself more than a casual moviegoer like me, but by no means an expert like Tim. And I love the well-rounded reviews from the entire cast. I find that at least one of the three usually not Rob, will share my
Wait,
opinion.
did you add that? Did you add that bit?
No,
Sounds like it
it's
was
there.
probably in the original to me.
It was definitely in the original. Will share my opinion of the flick that the group keeps. So, what?
Talk to your mic.
Sorry, I have to see my computer too. The group keeps it fun and fresh with different themes each week, and it's fun as they get their fans involved through website and Facebook page.
Speaking of fresh themes, I hope everyone's really looking forward to our top 5 spoofs next week.
Yeah.
Is that really our topic?
Well, I would love to do it because I've left out all of my spoofs. How much of your movies were spoofs? Would you say?
Like full on, no two ways about it. It's a spoof, not a parody. Really, just Hot Fuzz.
Could we do
although-
maybe a year from now top 5 spoofs?
Next
or
year.
something?
Next year.
But
Could we do
I
that?
would have the same list because I did not artificially
damn it,
limit
Tim.
my criterion.
Watch more movies. Watch more movies so you can just stick with
That's
parodies.
clearly my problem. I haven't seen enough movies to do a good top 5
Which
list.
parodies you could narrow it down to just parodies and have a nice sample size to be working with. Well, with and I want to say too, folks, don't forget our Patreon page where now we're doing all of our bonus content. We'll be including this episode, some behind the scenes. In between episodes, we do have some conversations where we make Carrie go fetch us some wine and some more food and things like that. We'll also be talking about the Florida project after this episode. So for the price of a cup of coffee per month, you can check in on all of that extra bonus content. And then with Gary Oldman's portrayal of Winston Churchill hitting theaters this week with The Darkest Hour, we look at our top 5 biopics, which is Tim's least favorite
It is my least favorite genre of cinema. I'm very excited.
Will it be hard for you picking your top 5 then?
Luckily, there's about 7 biopics I do like.
Okay, so
I'm
just
set.
rank ordering the 7 then. Well, we'll catch you then.